This is probably the closest chance we'll ever have to going back in time and having the opportunity to go right into Don Yenko's dealership and purchasing one of his legendary Camaro supercars brand new. I'm Matt Avery.
And I'm Bill Stephens here at the Cliff Ernst Collection. And we feel like we're on Treasure Island for high-performance Chevy fans, and we're going to share that experience with you right now.
JR, your dad put together a world-class collection. This is awesome. How did it all get started?
Well, it started with him being a muscle car fan, and growing up in Northeast Ohio, he was very familiar with Don Yenko and what Don Yenko was doing. And so when he got to a point that he could start to collect them, this was the one he started with, the Rally Green one. He acquired in 1987. From there, I don't know when he bought that one, if at the time he intended to get all six, but once he got it and got it on board, he decided that it'd be nice to have the whole collection.
What I find really interesting is that the condition of these cars, each one is as excellent as the one next to it. That's something that people have to be impressed with when they see them.
Yeah, it's through his collecting time, he ended up having 16 Yenkos, Camaros. He ultimately got to the point when he started paring it back down. He picked his 6 favorites, and these are the 6 that remained, and the others have already gone on to future homes. Dad was a drag racer on the weekends, and so he, if he was had spare time, he was tinkering on a car. And so it started with some Corvettes, but grew from there, and then he just eventually got into the Camaros and Yenkos in particular, and went from there.
And he was a young man in the middle of the original muscle car era, so that obviously fueled his interest in these cars.
It did, it did. After the green one, the next one he ended up getting was the gold car here.
Tell us about this, JR. This really is the centerpiece of the collection. What's the story?
So the gold car, along with being one of 10 in Olympic gold, after Dad acquired it from the original owner, he realized pretty quick that the car was special. It had badging that was different. The badging better matched the 68, in particular, the 427 being on the fender versus the cowl, and then the word Yenko, and the name Yenko being above Camaro. In further digging into it, it was realized this was the car that was taken and driven by Ed Hedrick as the pilot test prototype car. And it set the quick lap that had everybody talking on Yenko turning 11.94 seconds in a quarter mile.
With the pristine condition, was your dad ever afraid to use them? Are there any memories of family trips in the cars?
Not so much family trips. Trips in the cars usually consisted of Dad taking it to the drag strip, and in particular the orange car. He would take it to the track and he would run it.
I'm going to show you how we missed the boat back in the 1960s. You ready?
Yep.
These cars had a base price of about $3,700. Optioned out, we're talking $4,500, maybe $4,600. That means that in this day and age, some of these cars could be worth 100 times more than the original sticker. And who would have figured that back then?
From 16 down to 6, man, the collection has a new chapter upon us. JR, what's next for these special cars?
Well, we're excited to be taking all the cars to Kissimmee in January 2026. This will be the last of Dad's cars.
And it's not the last of what's included in his collection. There's some other performance icons. Let's go take a look.
You know, one of the underlying themes of the Cliff Ernst Collection is rarity. The Yenko Camaro, there's a whole category of rarity in those cars. Now, this is a 1969 Yenko Nova. Full production on this car, 38. Again, rarity, that's one of the words we're going to use a lot when we look at these automobiles.
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, it's related to the Camaro getting the same, effectively, treatment. Instead of a Copo-installed L72, Yenko's techs would do the big conversion, which is really the story here, Bill. As under the hood, that was not a factory option this year. This was something that Yenko wanted to include to round out his collection of sports cars. So he had the Camaro, the Chevelle, and Don even wanted the Nova to get the 427 treatment.
Now, I understand this car has a drag racing history.
It sure does. If this thing could talk, Bill, I would love to hear the story. So it was sold new from the Canonsburg dealership, not one of Don's authorized dealers, but actually from his Yenko Chevrolet, and it went right into the hands of a drag racer who campaigned it under a very appropriate name, My Piggy Bank. And then obviously it's been put back to that showroom fresh condition. It looks spectacular.
Now, this Yenko Nova is a 4-speed car. You could get an automatic, but not many people did. Of those 38 cars that Yenko built, the vast majority of them had that Muncie 4-speed in them.
All in all, Bill, a rare piece, and by best estimates, one of less than 10 that are around today. And I love how Cliff, he didn't just have a love for Chevy modifiers, he also loved some of the performance icons from Ford as well, too. Bill, we both know that no top collection is complete without some Shelbys, and some standout Shelbys like this pair. This is awesome.
Yeah, we got a 1968 GT500 KR and this 1969 GT500. They're not as different as day and night. We say they're as different as day and dusk because they do have some similarities, but there is a big difference between the overall description of these two automobiles. We'll start with this one, 1969 GT500. Carroll Shelby was slowly fading out of the picture. In fact, his cars were no longer being built at his facility. Ford had taken that over. And these cars, pretty much identical to the 1970 with a few changes. However, these cars still had that Shelby panache. They had horsepower, performance, and appearance. Oh, did I say performance? There's something happening under the hood.
Yeah, 428 Cobra Jet, 335 horse, but I think everyone knows that was underrated.
Yeah, and a C6 automatic too, and of course, you could get a 4-speed as well. The color scheme on this is candy apple red with a white top, and how about all of these identifiers that let you know the name Shelby?
No, as you said, lots of Shelby panache, and I'm gonna also say inside, lots of Shelby iconography. I love all the inclusion of the snakes, letting everyone know inside you're inside something special. I also like too, Bill, at the rear, the inclusion of those T-bird tail lights. Super neat little inclusion there.
And this car rides on those beautiful 5-spoke Magstar Shelby wheels with the raised white letter tires. This car truly is picture perfect.
Following your analogy, Bill, the sun is setting. Let's check out the dust Shelby. I really like how this one really flies under the radar. Not nearly as standoutish as the 69, but definitely packing that same performance.
Yeah, well, those in the know will understand just how special this car is. It's a KR, GT500 KR, king of the road, and it's a convertible. That's just the first thing that makes this car stand out. Raven black, one of the most desirable colors for a Shelby Mustang in this generation. Also, it's a 4-speed as opposed to the automatic in the 69. This one has the 10-spoke Shelby wheels on it, 5 more than the 69. But overall, the package of this car, the way that it looks, the appearance, and that 335 horsepower Cobra Jet engine all make for a special automobile, both in appearance and performance.
Funny how trends come back in vogue, because I think the color scheme is very popular today, just as it was decades ago. This blacked out look, I love it.
Yep. Remember now, this was a spring 1968 addition to the Shelby lineup. Before that, these engines were the Police Interceptor 428 cubic inch engine. And it's interesting that the horsepower rating was the same when the Cobra Jet came in. But like I always say, if you believe the horsepower ratings from the 1960s, I'd like to sell you some aluminum cookware in the trunk of my car. Oh, it gives me a great amount of pleasure to present this car from the Cliff Ernst Collection. This is a beautifully restored 1969 Pontiac Trans Am that looks like it just rolled out of the showroom. Now, let's start with the mechanicals on this, Matt Avery. What kind of power are we talking about?
Absolutely, Bill. So underneath the hood, this is one of the Ram Air 3, 400 cubic inch, 335 horse. And when it came to 1960s Firebird performance, this was really what most of those Leadfoots were after. And I gotta say, in addition to that powertrain, I love the color setup, Bill. It stands out. But I got a question for you. I know the debate's still ongoing. The paint. Is it polar white or cameo white?
Yeah, the eternal debate continues, yes. Some people say cameo white, and other people say it's polar white. I don't think there's any argument that it looks fantastic. And the blue, no argument there. It's Tyrol blue, and all of the 69 Trans Am came in this livery.
I will say, I really love the painted blue tail end. I think that really sets the look apart, and what probably is what most competitors saw when this got out onto a track. And I really like the attention to detail. This was one of the last restorations that was done under Cliff's care, and I think it really shows the lengths they went to. This thing is spotless from top to bottom.
Yeah, we see these cross the auction block and see how excited people are when they can bid on actually owning one. But one in this condition, this puts it in a whole different stratosphere.
What an experience to check out this assembly of all-American performance, including this Yenko supercar collection. It's next level.
Yeah, Yenkos, Shelbys, Cliff Ernst has certainly created quite a legacy, and even though he has passed, these cars are going to carry that legacy into the future, especially when we see them sell in Kissimmee.
All eyes will be on them January 6th through the 18th, 2026 at Mecum Kissimmee.
And if you can't be there to join us, you can watch us streaming live on ESPN+.